you're watching this video, chances are that you're exhausted. Not just physically from the endless appointments, the therapies, and the late nights researching, but emotionally drained from the cycle of hope and disappointment that comes from trying everything for your child only to see minimal improvement. I see it every single day in my practice. Parents that have become reluctant experts in their child's condition. Parents that could practically teach a masterclass on special diets and supplements and detoxes and primitive reflex integration and brain games, you name it. Parents that have spent thousands of dollars, countless hours, and immeasurable emotional energy on treatments that were supposed to be the answer. And yet their child's still struggling. And maybe they've seen small improvements, enough to keep trying, but not the breakthrough that they know that their child deserves. And if this sounds familiar, I want you to know two things. First, you're absolutely not alone. This is the reality for countless families navigating chronic health conditions like autism, like ADHD, sensory processing disorder, epilepsy, PANDAS, and more. And secondly, there might be a fundamental reason why all of those treatments haven't delivered the transformation that you've been hoping for. A missing piece that explains why your child might improve temporarily, only to plateau or regress despite your best efforts. Today, I want to share what could be the missing foundation in your child's healing journey. Something that most medical doctors and even many natural health practitioners overlook entirely. So let me share Hannah's story. At 11 years old, Hannah was already a veteran of the healthcare system, diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis and battling daily symptoms that no child should have to endure. Nausea and headaches and migraines, digestive issues, chronic fatigue, anxiety, and depression. Now, her parents were exactly like many of you. They're devoted, proactive, and willing to try anything. And they did. Special diets. They eliminated everything from gluten to nightshades, supplements that filled an entire kitchen cabinet. They explored functional medicine and detox protocols and even cryotherapy. And when conventional treatments were recommended, they trusted their doctors and they proceeded with chemotherapy, hoping that it would finally bring relief. But nothing provided lasting improvement. And in fact, many treatments seemed to be making things worse. Hannah reached such a low point that she told her mom specifically she felt empty inside and didn't want to live anymore. And can you imagine hearing those words from an 11-year-old? Her mom described that moment as hitting rock bottom, feeling like she had failed as a parent despite doing everything right, trying every treatment, seeing every specialist. But then something changed. A friend suggested that they visit a neurologically focused chiropractic office, something that they hadn't even considered because they didn't understand how it could possibly help with Hannah's complex challenges. And what happened next was nothing short of remarkable. After her very first adjustment, Hannah slept through the night. Something that hadn't happened in years. The constant nausea diminished and her appetite returned. And within weeks, her energy began improving and the chronic headaches became less frequent. Today, Hannah describes it this way. It's the light at the end of a tunnel, and it's there. And that she can now say that with absolute certainty because she sees it. So what changed? Did Hannah's parents suddenly find the one miracle treatment or the supplement that they hadn't tried? No, what they found was the missing foundation that allowed her body to finally respond to all of the other good things that they were doing. So parents, here's where most healthcare approaches go wrong. They focus on specific symptoms or systems without ensuring the body's foundation is stable enough to respond appropriately. So think about it like this. Imagine that you're trying to charge a phone with a damaged charging port. You could try different chargers, portable batteries even, or wireless chargers, even the most expensive, high-quality charging options. But if the phone's charging port is damaged, nothing will work properly. Your child's nervous system is like that charging port. It's the fundamental connection that allows everything else to function. Nearly every parent that I meet has already tried addressing their gut health with special diets and probiotics and healing protocols, or immune stuff with their supplements, the anti-inflammatory approaches, the brain function side of things with cognitive therapies and brain games and red lights or sensory integrations, or even heavy detoxes with cleanses and binders and saunas. Now, those things are phenomenal, but here's what's missing. None of those systems can function at its absolute best if the nervous system, the master control system of the entire body, is dysregulated and stuck in a state of stress. Your child's nervous system develops first in utero before any other system. It then dictates and coordinates the development and function of every other bodily system from that point forward. And when it's compromised, everything else is affected downstream. Another way to think about it is that you wouldn't put expensive furniture with a cracked foundation. You'd fix the foundation first, then bring in the furniture and paint the walls and do all the fun things there. The same principle applies to your child's health. We need to stabilize the neurological foundation before other interventions can work effectively. So how does the nervous system get dysregulated in the first place? It's what we call the perfect storm. It's a cascade of stressors that create the perfect conditions for neurological dysfunction. This typically unfolds in three main phases. The first phase is prenatal stress. Many parents don't realize that neurological challenges often begin before birth. High maternal stress during pregnancy floods the developing fetus with stress hormones, affecting how their nervous system forms. Because the umbilical cord isn't just for blood flow and nutrients and waste removal. It's the direct neurological connection between mom's brain and nervous system and baby's brain and nervous system. And there's significant research that shows how high maternal stress can actually alter gene expression in ways that affect brain development. So this includes fertility challenges, which many parents that I speak with have experienced those things. The hormonal treatments, the emotional stress, and physical interventions involved in fertility treatment creating neurological impact that's rarely discussed. Now, phase 2 is birth interventions. So when we talk about this, it's the birth process. It's a process that should be natural, but increasingly involves medical intervention. C-sections now account for 1 in 3 births. Vacuum extractions, forceps deliveries, inductions, and epidurals can all create physical and chemical stress and strain to the delicate neurological structures at the top of the spine. And many parents tell me, but my delivery was normal. And when we dig deeper, we often find interventions that weren't presented as significant at the time, but created substantial physical stress on their baby's developing nervous system. And phase 3 is early childhood factors. So after birth, additional factors compound this nervous system stress. Rounds and rounds of antibiotics for ear infections and other sicknesses. The environmental toxins and heavy metals, our air, our food, our water, all of these things add in. The physical side of it, from falls while learning how to walk and rolling off of beds and all of the fun things that our kids do at those ages. The emotional stress and strain like separation anxiety or changes in loss in family dynamics or big time moves and academic stressors. These 3 big phases combine in what we call subluxation. And it's a state of nervous system dysfunction that doesn't show up on standard medical tests, but has profound effects on how our bodies function. So let me show you visually how this works with our hierarchy of development and healing. As you can see, development follows a specific sequence. The nervous system develops first and remains foundational. Then the motor and sensory system, so our movement, our coordination, our reflexes, and then followed by our gut and our immune system function. So the strength of it all, as well as the plumbing involved with it too. And then finally, higher brain functions like our focus, our learning, our emotional regulation, speech and cognition, and all of those cool things. So when we're trying to help a child heal, we need to work in this same sequence. But most approaches skip straight to steps 3 or even step 4, trying to fix gut issues and brain function without addressing the foundational nervous system piece first. And so it's like trying to teach calculus to a child that hasn't learned basic arithmetic. The foundation just isn't there. But when we start addressing the foundational component of it all by restoring balance and function to the autonomic and central nervous system, we start seeing functional gain in their motor and sensory, in their gut and their immune, or big brain functions up top, primarily because the foundation has been laid down and supported so that way they can move forward beyond it. Now, the term subluxation or neurostructural shifting might be new to you. And it's not just about bones being out of place or things not moving correctly in misalignment. It's about nervous system interference that creates dysregulation throughout the body. Now, when subluxation is present, your child's body gets stuck in a stress response. The fight or flight sympathetic system stays overactive, and the calming, healing parasympathetic system gets suppressed. And then essential nerve pathways that regulate everything from digestion to our mood to our immune function don't communicate properly, primarily through our vagus nerve. And this explains why your child might react intensely to small changes or to sensory inputs, why they may struggle with sleep despite trying every sleep strategy, or have persistent digestive issues despite the perfect diet and supplementation, or even showing limited progress in therapy despite the consistent efforts. The most frustrating part of it all is that standard medical testing won't detect this dysregulation. Blood tests, MRIs, EEGs, they're all looking for pathology or disease, not function. A child can still have severe nervous system dysfunction and still have normal test results according to conventional medicine. And this is why so many parents hear everything looks normal, maybe they'll grow out of it, despite having or knowing something is clearly wrong. So let me show you what we can actually see when we look at the nervous system function directly with the insight scans. So these scans, they belong to a child who came into our office diagnosed with autism. And his parents had done everything right. Early intervention, occupational therapy, speech therapy, ABA, special diets, medications, 30 different supplements and detoxes that were recommended by their functional medicine doctor. Now, despite all of these interventions, he was making minimal progress. And in some areas was actually regressing. Now, looking at his scans, though, you can immediately see why. So on his left side, this left one right over here, very specifically, it shows severe autonomic nervous system dysregulation. So it's looking at the temperature balance area. You're seeing some significant patterns of stress and strain in the autonomic nervous system up top within the upper neck, down within this major digestive core, and then some mild also throughout the upper digestive too. But what's fascinating and the most stuck part about this is where you're seeing this blip show up, collapse inward on both sides. This is where the nervous system is most bogged down and not functioning well. So essentially, this area right here is the most stuck. But when we combine that with his surface EMG, which is the one right here on the middle, this is the area that's trying to change as much as humanly possible. The activity there is trying to compensate for the neurological shutdown that we're seeing on this left-hand side here. Now, what's really important with this middle scan, it reveals the neurosensory or the neuromotor piece of the dysfunction. And we can actually measure and quantify that as well. This total energy index speaks volumes to what this little child's going through and why nothing has worked since. I like to see 120 to 180 for these types of kiddos. He clocked in at 350, meaning his nervous system is so locked in and stuck onto this stress mode, running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, that no wonder any of these modalities, these therapies, these supplements can take hold. His little nervous system is so locked in and shut down to this fight or flight side of things that nothing works. And when we look at this far right, it's looking at what we talk about as the gas and brake pedal side. So the gas pedal side of our nervous system is on the left side of the scan. The brake pedal side is on the right hand side of it. So as you can see, his little nervous system overall shifted and stuck in the sympathetic fight or flight. The positive of this scan, though, is how high he plots into the green zone. It's actually more of a positive rather than a negative. So we talk about this as the gas tank or the body's reserves to be able to make change. So although his nervous system is stuck and shifted in the sympathetic fight or flight side of things, his overall body's reserves are a lot high, meaning that his reserves to handle and make change are a lot higher. The capacity to change and the capacity to reach progress is so much higher with this kiddo. And we never would have known had we have gone deeper to be able to measure exactly what is going on within his nervous system. And so with this level of functional dysfunction or foundational dysfunction, I should say, it's no wonder that other treatments weren't working effectively. It's like trying to run a software on a computer with damaged operating systems. The program simply can't function as it was designed to. And when we start to restore balance and function to the core neurological systems here, we then start to see progressions in the hierarchy of development that I shared earlier of, hey, we're seeing change within the neurological system. We're seeing positive changes to the motor and sensory, to their gut and immune, and the big brain up top, looking like speech changes or words coming out that weren't there before, or engagement, whether that's at school or at home or at therapies. The change happens here, and this lays down the foundation for everything else to happen. But parents, here's the good news. When we address this foundational issue first, something remarkable happens. Not only do we see direct improvements in function, but suddenly all of the other treatments that you've been trying to begin work better too. We call this the getting unstuck phenomenon. By removing the neurological interference through precise, gentle adjustments that are focused on the specific areas of dysfunction, we help the body shift from a state of constant stress to a state of balance where healing becomes possible. And parents often tell me that they're amazed when the supplements that did nothing before suddenly seem to help, that their child starts making rapid progress in therapy after plateauing for months, that their sleep improved, making everyone's life easier, or the gut issues resolve even without changing their diet or supplements, or sensory sensitivities, those things decreasing, allowing for more normal family activities. This isn't magic. It's simply what happens when we restore proper function to the master control system of the body. It's like removing a roadblock that's been causing a traffic jam. Everything starts flowing properly again. So when Hannah's nervous system regulation improved, everything else became more effective too. The diet changes that previously seemed to make little difference suddenly supported her healing. The supplements that had little or minimal impact started working synergistically with her body's natural healing abilities. Most importantly though, Hannah started feeling like herself again, not just a collection of symptoms and struggles. Her journey reflects what I've seen hundreds of times in my practice. When we correct the foundation, children can finally respond to all of the good things that their parents have been doing all along. And for her parents, this often brings a profound sense of validation. And it brings it for you guys too. So many of you have been told explicitly or implicitly that they weren't doing enough or weren't doing it right. But the truth is though, that you guys are doing all of the right things, just in an order that makes it difficult for your child's body to respond. So if you're feeling like Hannah's parents, you're exhausted from trying everything without seeing the breakthrough that your child deserves, I want you to know that hope is not lost. There may be a fundamental piece of the puzzle that's been overlooked. Now, neurologically focused chiropractic care might be the missing foundational piece within your child's healing journey. It all starts with finding out if your child's nervous system is indeed subluxated and dysregulated first. Our insight scans can show us if your child's nervous system is dysregulated, to what degree or what severity, and where the primary areas of dysfunction are even located. Now, this allows us to develop a personalized care plan, specifically put in place, that addresses your child's unique needs, not just a one-size-fits-all approach. Parents, I know that you're tired. I know that you may be hesitant to try one more thing. But if you've never addressed this neurological foundation, you might be missing the very thing that could make everything else work better. Parents, don't give up hope. So often the breakthrough that you're looking for starts with going back to the foundation and building from there, just like Hannah and her family did. Visit the link in our bio to be able to learn more about how we can help your child finally experience the healing that you've been searching for. You've been working so hard to help your child. Now, let's make sure that the effort can truly pay off by building a solid foundation.